Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa says he's confident that he will win the election after casting his vote in Kwekwe. Mnangagwa, who took over when longtime strongman Robert Mugabe was toppled in a 2017 military coup, is seeking a second term in office. He faces 10 other candidates, including his main challenger, lawyer and pastor Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change. Mnangagwa's detractors have criticized his first term, during which runaway inflation, currency shortages and sky-high unemployment have heavily impacted ordinary Zimbabweans. Voters have flocked to various polling stations and closely watched presidential and legislative elections after a campaign tainted by a crackdown on the opposition, fears of vote rigging and public anger at the economic crisis.
If I think I'm not going to take it, then I'll be foolish. Everyone who contests, if you're going to rest to win. And precisely so what I'm doing. Even the younger generation are very interested to cast their vote, because I've seen in the media that, for the first time we wanted to show that we also have rights to make our decisions. It's very good.
All right, let's bring you more of what's happening on the ground. We'll cross live now to Newzroom Afrika's Audrey Chimwanda, who is in Harare. A very good afternoon to you. We've just seen President Emmerson Mnangagwa reacting after casting his vote. Give us a sense of the general atmosphere in the country as people head to the polls.
Indeed, so the two front-runners in this general elections have cast their ballots in their respective constituencies. As you mentioned, the incumbent, President Edi Mnangagwa, did so a few hours ago in Kwekwe, that's in the Midlands province. And we also had the main opposition party leader, Nelson Chamisa, casting his ballot in Kuwadzana. He had a throng of his supporters coming through. We were there actually a few minutes ago, and we managed to get a bit of that as people were coming to vote. Now, just to go back to the intro that you mentioned, that this election has been marred by allegations of violence and clampdown on the opposition. You would think we're in a totally different era right now, as we've had a very peaceful and quiet day. We have traveled to at least 3 or 4 polling stations inside of Harare and in the outskirts, and people are voting peacefully and quietly. They have very strong views about what they intend to hear and to be fixed by whoever comes into leadership. This is the 9th general election in Zimbabwe since the country got independence in 1980. I wasn't born then, but I'll not tell you when I was born. I don't want to give away my age. However, more importantly, I have a guest with me, a philosopher, Mr. Joshua Maponga, to help us understand the context of democracy, not only in Africa, but especially in Zimbabwe as the country is holding these polls. Mr. Maponga, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all of you on the continent.
Well, you hardly need any introduction, but we, of course, want to hear your views with regards to how this process has unveiled from early in the morning or even days leading up to this election day.
It has been beautiful. I also managed to check 1 or 2 polling stations, and it has been very quiet. My anger with the whole system of democracy is that when people are being abused, apartheid, colonialism, you don't send observers to come and see the amount of abuse that people are going through. And all of a sudden, when the country is democratic, now you have an idea of how you want to supervise the democracy. You would rather give money to opposition parties rather than give money for development. And why is this election important? It's important because we need Zimbabwe back online so that South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho and Swaziland, we can offload the burden of the Zimbabweans who are there as economic refugees and they've run out from their own country because things are not functioning. But I have good news for you, the country is going back to order, and we are here to make sure that happens.
I want to go back to what my colleague Paul alluded to in the intro to this interview that we're having, that there's been allegations from the opposition who are claiming rigging already. You speak of the opposition being funded by the West and all these mission observers coming and not coming in earnest. What are your thoughts around those allegations?
The mischief of opposition is that he said if elections don't come in his favor, then they are fake. Then why are we wasting our time going to vote if Chamisa already declares himself as a president? So literally, I don't think he understands the ambit of the constitution in which he wants to manage. You don't say such things in a campaign, that only if I become a leader, then the elections are legitimate. Then go and vote for yourself and exclude us from the chaos. But if you want people to come, you cannot undermine 15 million people because of an ambition of a messianic view that you are the liberator of the country. We are here, equally educated and able to take our own future into our own hands and work together. And if there's a problem with the driver in the bus, you talk to the driver to change the trajectory if the bus is going the wrong direction. But for you to offload people from transport and direction and cause vandalism around, they want the elections to be viewed as violent. But as the ruling party, we have not heard that in our corridors. In fact, we want these elections to be perfectly run. We want to whip him to the ground.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that. Mr. Maponga, very strong views there about allegations that have been coming from the opposition. Over 10 provinces where we have, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has over 12,400 polling stations that have been stationed across the country. We've been hearing of, actually went to the one poll where ballot papers came in a bit late. The ZEC has alluded to that. They have admitted that they've been having challenges. We're made to understand that that has been resolved. We will be going through to other stations, polling stations as well, to see if those issues have indeed been resolved. Mpho.
Many challenges during this period of elections, Audrey. What would you say is the general tone of Zimbabweans? Are they hoping that this election, the outcome, will lead to the much-needed change, especially looking on the opportunities in jobs and the economy?
Key issues that the voters are talking about from yesterday, when we're trying to get a sense of what their hopes and aspirations are, not only for the country but for themselves and their families. They go back to the basics: your unemployment, a high cost of living, consumer goods in the stores that are expensive. They want those issues to be addressed. They're also cognizant of the fact that the country is under sanctions, and they want the leader who comes through to be able to circumvent those issues and make sure that the country's economy is revived.
Audrey Chibwanda, let's leave it there for now as we continue, of course, to keep a very close eye on developments in Zimbabwe as Zimbabweans go and cast their votes. Of course, a developing story which we will continue to bring you updates on.